This week on the Salesforce Admins podcast, we're jamming, literally, with Joy Shutters-Helbing and Mike Reynolds about creating community content, navigating conference submissions, and yes, even launching a podcast of their own. It's called the Jam Pod, and I listen to it. Do you? Joy is a longtime Salesforce MVP Hall of Famer, community group leader, and admin extraordinaire with over 21 years of experience. Mike is a Salesforce Credential Ambassador known for his deep knowledge on permission sets, permissions, and profiles. And now he works with Slack. Before we get into this episode, be sure to follow the Salesforce Admins podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. That way, you get a fresh episode every Thursday right on your phone. So with that, let's jump into the conversation with Joy and Mike. So Joy and Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joy, let's start with you. You've been in the community. You've actually been on the Salesforce Admins podcast before, but for listeners just finding out who you are and probably missed your wonderful TDX presentation, can you tell us a little bit about what you do in the community and how long you've been working with Salesforce?
I have been working with Salesforce for 21 years. And for those of you who haven't heard me talk about it before, it does run in parallel with the age of my son. So I have, I've been a Salesforce admin for the duration. I am a Chicago admin community group leader along with Denise and Chris. I am a Salesforce MVP Hall of Fame. I am podcast host with Mike Reynolds, and he'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. I also host MVP office hours on the first and third Friday of every month, and I've spoken at Dreamforce and TDX and a host of other community conferences. I think that's it.
Well, if not, then we'll definitely be able to find you online.
Yes.
Mike, how about you?
Well, I had been Salesforcing for about 10 years, and I've been able to do a lot over that time. It's been a wild ride. So I'm a Credential Ambassador, so I've helped create, I want to say 13 different certifications or updates to them, some super badges and trailhead modules, stuff like that, maintenance modules. I've spoken at a lot of conferences, all sorts of different topics, things that range from, DevOps to, I think most people have heard me talk about permissions. It's been a real big deal for the last couple of years. Spoken at a lot of conferences. It's super fun. I love connecting and getting out and doing all that. And now I work at Slack.
Oh, yes, that's right. Very communicative of you to work at Slack.
Yeah, it is.
You almost threw me a perfect segue there, which is that you've been out and done a lot of presenting. One thing that I've seen when I was doing user groups when we were in Chicago, you guys also both host a podcast called the Jam Pod, and depending on when you choose to air my episode, I was on it.
Yay!
So I'll link to that. I might have to go back and link to it depending on when it happens. But, one of the things that we see kind of ebb and flow in the community is the amount of contributions that community members of their own free will put out. And I know on your podcast, we talked about speaking at user group events. Mm-hmm. Where did the idea of, hey, let's sit down and create something that's not the easiest thing in the world to create, but we want to put it out in the world come from?
I think that's Joy's fault.
It's always my fault.
Okay.
Everything's always my fault. It was probably me asking a lot of questions and Mike being like, well, we should talk to people that have the answers to that. And I think that's really where it started. But also there was a challenge that happened on MVP office hours once upon a time from Squire. So Squire, I'm sorry. Here we are, just keep talking about you, but it's really in a good way about how he had opinions about Mike's presentation on permissions. And I was like, I can arrange this phone call. And there was some excitement around this throwdown at the flagpole and the playground situation.
Oh, my.
Yes, people thought that, well, I'm not going to give it away, but people were very excited to see the fisticuffs that were going to happen around permissions and profiles between Mike Reynolds and Squire Kirshner. And if you haven't heard our first episode, you should go back and listen to it, and you can find out how that turns out. But since then, we have spoken with a number of different people in the Salesforce ecosystem about, wow, a host of different things, everything from hiring to technical talks to, the topics are very wide ranging, including the podcast we recorded with you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have something else to add, Mike Reynolds? I have two mics on this call. This is crazy.
I know. I forgot to mention that Joy's in not a good situation where she says Mike, and then the two people go,
Yeah. I say Mike, and then I roll my eyes.
I can tell from the tone who you're talking to, though. We were working together at the
A customer
group. Yeah, we were at a customer, but we were working. Joy and I were working together, and this idea came up, and I looked into it, and it didn't cost that much to get a really basic, kind of here's what we can do to record a podcast. Doesn't take a ton.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super sophisticated or anything, but it works. And we have a developer edition of Salesforce that we built out over. It was on a Saturday, I think 4 hours to put together a very basic community site that we host the episodes on, and then that was kind of it. We just didn't give up, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm still adding fields in production.
That's true. That's true.
Joy following all of the best practices that we speak about.
It's a dev org.
All the work has been done in prod.
Yeah,
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
It's the main takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But I mean, really, it's funny because the podcast it's been a lot of fun. But when I look back at how we got here, it's basically the exact same as how we got with all these things, like the conversation about permissions. The whole, I mean, I've given that talk so many times. People reach out, user groups reach out, and they're like, "Hey, we would love to have you come and give this presentation," and I'm happy to do so. But the presentation came from a work meeting where we were trying to solve the problem. You know, it was. I called Joy and I called another colleague, and I was like, "Hey, this is messed up. We have to find a way around this."
Yeah,
and we worked on it for about an hour and a half. And then iterated over it for maybe a week. And there's our real life business problem and our real life solution. And then we just decided to talk about it because it's applicable. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's got permissions. Everybody's got the same challenges.
What do you feel is the biggest barrier from people going from not necessarily starting, let's say, a podcast, but creating and contributing community content in the Salesforce ecosystem?
What's the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle to folks creating and like sharing their content with the rest of us? I think there's a lot of things, right? There's where to start. You have two different people, right? You've got people that have stuff and they're ready to share. They just don't know where to start. And then there's the folks that are like, I don't know if what I have is important enough to share with anyone. Right. And so I think the first hurdle, right, is getting folks to a place where they understand that they are experts in the business problem that they have, that they can share with the community. And they are the experts on how they've applied a solution to this problem. And giving these folks the confidence to say, there is someone out here who is dealing with this similar problem, who will learn and engage and benefit from what you're sharing. And once we get folks to build that confidence and that what their experience is worth sharing, I think then we can start getting more content from them.
Mm-hmm. Mike, how about you?
I think one of the challenges that a lot of people have is knowing that they can and then knowing when. So if you've, maybe you've been to a community conference, you think, oh, I could contribute to this, but you didn't think of that 3 months ago when the call for speakers was open.
Mm.
And so like right now is a brilliant time. I know Midwest Drayman's call for speakers is open.
Through the 31st, I think.
Yeah. And, right after that, Florida Drayman, their call for speakers will be open. Mid-Atlantic has got to be soon.
Dreamforce is coming up.
Yeah, it will here before you know it, which is crazy to think about that it's that soon.
And
but it
community
will.
groups and conferences are the best place to run those through.
Yeah.
Before the big ones.
Because I think most people have something that would benefit from someone else.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us have done something. And if you're sitting at home going, oh, well, I haven't done anything that's that cool. Yeah, you have. You have. Because there's somebody else who wasn't able to do it that tried. And
Yep.
Anytime you make a flow, somebody else tried that and didn't get it right. And so we've all got things. And I think it's that realization that you actually do have something of value to share. Because you do.
So I think, we talk a lot like, oh, you got to participate, got to do this. Whenever I've done end user training or just technology training, you always got to think about the what's in it for me perspective when you're talking with an end user, right? Because you're generally going from one system to another when you're switching to Salesforce. I'm going to ask you the same question. So for your podcast, the Jam Pod, what's in it for you? What do you get out of it?
Nothing. Like
I disagree. I think you get something out of it because there's a reason people create that content in the community.
What does Joy get out of the Jam Pod podcast? I get to create a connection with folks that I might not have been able to unless I had done this. Being a community group leader, I don't necessarily get a lot of time to speak with the group of people about content, or I don't get to, or I go to a conference and I only get to speak about the content, and there's less time engaging with folks on a different level. One of our listeners said to me recently, they're like, Joy, when I listen to the Jam Pod, I just feel like I'm in a room having a conversation with you and Mike. And that was actually the best compliment we could have gotten, I think. You learned a lot. You just felt comfortable with us. And what I forget, though, is that there's a lot of people that are at these conferences that like introduce themselves to me and they know me better than I know them. And so it's interesting for my brain to kind of be like, oh, they have been listening to you and they're watching what's happening, but but Joy, you don't know these folks yet. So it's okay.
Mike, how about you?
I think, I know what I get out of it. I get to meet with people and talk about them and learn about them and learn how they've contributed. And so for me, very selfishly, the Jam is an excellent way to just get to know some people a little bit better than I already do. Mm-hmm. I have to suffer through time with Joy, which I actually do like. And, I enjoy spending time with Joy. But I think just broadly speaking, this idea of like, well, why would I want to go stand up on stage and contribute, or why do I want to do anything? Mm-hmm. And there have been a handful of moments where somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you talked about this and I was able to do it. And those moments, that feeling is so damn good. Mm-hmm. To know that you have been able to make somebody a little bit more successful or speed somebody's path to success, anything, you just helped. Being helpful is such a good feeling. That is, for me, that's my why. Yeah.
No, I don't think you can undersell that enough, because you forget how often in life and in your career being helpful feels good, and it can almost get a little bit addictive in terms of wanting to put content out there and getting any kind of that feedback of, wow, that was so helpful. I'm so appreciative of your content, you know?
I was going to say one of the catalysts for sharing content to be helpful so that you can get this experience that we're talking about that can be addictive. When you have toiled over a formula, or you have toiled over the flow, or you have toiled over a solution, and all of a sudden it works, and you stand up and you do some sort of like victory dance, that is the
Boom.
thing that you should be sharing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you toiled over, because we know that you did the Google search. We know that you did, you reached out for help, and you cobbled together all of these things that helped you with the solution. That victory dance is why you should share your experience, so that you can help folks not have to toil over the hours of cobbling together the thing.
Yeah, I usually run around the neighborhood with an air horn.
That is a different victory dance than mine,
Letting
but I like
people
it.
know
I like it.
what I've accomplished. Feels good. Keeps the neighbors awake. Keeps them on their toes. All right. So last question for both of you, and you weren't expecting any of this, but how, if you were on, and Mike, this is kind of interesting for you because you're on the Salesforce side, but if you were on the Salesforce side of things, how could Salesforce enable more community content creation?
Go ahead, Mike.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, sure. So,
I'll jump in later.
I think that the first thing is just awareness. You know, it is, we shout. I mean, and we really do. If you are following the evangelists and the people that are the mouthpieces for Salesforce, if you're following those people on the socials, you will see that they start posting things like, hey, it's time to submit your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that is, I think we can do more of that. I feel like we do a lot, but we could do more. And then I think the other thing is to encourage people to just submit ideas. I think what a lot of people don't realize is, you know, like let's take Dreamforce. That's the next mega event that we have. When you submit to Dreamforce, you don't have to submit the idea for yourself. You can submit an idea and say, I really want to hear about this, but I'm not going to be the speaker for it.
You can nominate other people.
Yeah. You could say, I think this person should talk about it, right? Like, I want to hear Mike Gerholt talk about community. I can submit that as an idea. That doesn't mean that you're going to have to go do it, but it gets the idea in front of the people. Mm-hmm. So I think we could do a better job of kind of making sure that we have the megaphone at the right moments and that we are, you know, kind of helping and getting the word out, right?
Joy, how about you?
So I think that is a solid way to encourage more folks to submit to these sorts of things, whether it's a community conference, a community group, or, you know, our Salesforce conferences. I think something that Salesforce can do, it would be maybe to, wow, this is really off the cuff here. I'm sorry, but encourage the brainstorming sessions, encourage the speaking mentorship situation. I know that there is some very soft and lighthearted speaking mentorship happening, and I forget where I saw it. And I'm sorry if folks are recognizing themselves and I'm not putting names and faces and topic together. But if folks could brainstorm and like feel like they're being heard and have these ideas bounced around in a way that they can validate their ideas, I think that would help with more of this content creation that is not seemingly all the same, right? Because I think that what happens is folks see this like piece of content somewhere and then they kind of put their own twist on it or their own flavor to it. And then they kind of try to run with it that way. It's a formula and it works. If you've seen it in a small space and you can kind of make it better, that's great. But I think that if you want to really build some incredibly interesting content, having a safe space to brainstorm, like a writer's workshop, perhaps, would really help that.
Those are good suggestions.
That just came to me.
Some of the best content happens on the fly, let me tell you. Joy and Mike, I want to thank you for taking time out and being on my little podcast with all of our 5 listeners that we have. Hopefully somebody from your podcast will come over and I'll have 15 or 20 maybe.
I think there's going to be some crossover on this.
I think it's good. I
can only hope so.
I'm glad you guys are out there creating content in the world. I also, just as a side note, not that you asked for it, I'm glad it's called the Jam Pod and not the Jelly Pod, because jam is better than jelly. And I 100% think you should have a jam chosen for every single podcast.
Like a pairing?
I'm telling you, there is a shop.
Jam pairing?
There is like 2 or 3. Now it's spring, so this will come out in like April, March, something. Mm-hmm. It's farmers market season.
Oh, it is.
I spend an absorbent amount of money on farmers market jams, because like blueberry jams, and apple. In my house, jam does not last that long. And there's a couple of shops that we definitely frequent. So I was thinking of, it'd also be a good excuse just to buy jam.
It is.
Mike,
it is.
I'm going to admit this to you because I have no shame. Right?
Yeah.
I one time made a bracket for the best jam for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I like where this is going.
And I'm just going to tell you, it took determination. It took grit and staying power. But I have some pretty strong opinions on strawberry jam as being the definitive leader of the field. A lot of honorable mentions available, but a good strawberry jam, so hard to do better.
With peanut butter.
With peanut butter for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
100%. I can go with that. I can go with blueberry too. I'm indiscriminate. Let me tell you what I prefer with bacon on toast. Blueberry jam with black pepper bacon.
Oh,
let me tell you,
this is what I'm doing tomorrow morning. All right,
it's life changing. And
are you telling me I'm making blueberry jam tonight?
I'm saying you could put. Now, here's the thing. I will also eat it with strawberry jam, but there is something about the sweetness of the blueberry and the savoriness of the bacon.
Oh, yeah. Oh. With a little bit of smokiness in there?
Yeah. I mean, in America, we smoke our bacon. So
do you go with a sourdough here?
No, I just regular old bread, like whatever's at the store.
This was the question, Mike and Mike. I needed to know the vehicle for the jam, because sourdough is
magical.
Good.
Yeah.
Fresh baked.
No, I enjoy. Here's the crazy thing, because it's been a while since I've worked food into the podcast, but that's always in our feedback of he works food into the podcast, and it's a technology thing.
Do more food.
Yeah, whatever.
We talked about hamburgers last time.
I saw that.
Look, I'm not saying we have to do this, but we can have. Here's what we'll do. If you create a podcast, a Salesforce podcast by Dreamforce,
right.
I will arrange. I'm saying you, anybody in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Oh,
you go to Dreamforce, you create a podcast. I will arrange for we have a podcast
breakfast.
We're going to do, no, not a breakfast, a bracket of jams and jellies under various circumstances. And then we can just create this.
I'm a part of this.
And we will make this happen. You only get an invite if you create a podcast. But I will make it happen.
I feel like we're going to be in
the Mike. You just
I feel like we're going to be in the mezzanine of the Marriott Marquis, and it's like me and you and 30 jars of jam.
This sounds ideal.
And we're just people are walking by, what are those guys doing? I don't know. They must be really into jam. Yes, we are. And just jam all over our face. We're just jam drunk.
Just jars.
What's going on?
Gosh, so many jars.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like an emergency room appointment for diabetes. So appreciate that. Ought to be awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you both for coming on the podcast. I do like your idea. And now I'm going to go have some toasted jam for lunch.
Aww.
Perfect.
And that's a wrap on our jam-packed episode with Joy and Mike. So whether you're Team Strawberry or Blueberry, no judgment. We hope you're walking away inspired to share your own admin wins and fumbles, flow fixes, and really all of your stories. If you like this episode, hey, spread the jam. I mean, the love. Thinking of jam. Tap those 3 dots, share it with a fellow admin, or shout it from the rooftops, or hey, I know, a Slack channel. And if you're hungry for more, head over to admin.salesforce.com for everything admin, including a transcript of the show. Oh, don't forget, you can also join us in the Admin Trailblazers group. The conversation and I bet the jam bracket planning continues there. So until next time, keep those flows flowing and those toast slices jammed. We'll see you in the cloud.